you're a first timer for the first time in your life, I think. Coach Jim Toman here on
Hey,
our program.
they say there's a first for everything, but yeah, this is my first time on your show. I feel very lucky to be on the show. I appreciate it. How's everything going down there? You guys in Columbia?
No, I'm back home. I'm in Charleston, but
Okay.
trying to get up there Sunday afternoon if I can. I've get it's so I made the best decision of my life was to have kids, right, Coach? Or the best decision of our lives, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
All
Yes.
right. Well, mine happened to come on the weekend that Clemson Carolina baseball plays every year.
Wow.
Yeah. So their birthday
That's
is
tough.
Sunday. Yeah. Well, I know. So we're gonna see what we can do in the
Eh,
morning and then maybe get up.
bring him to the game as a birthday present. You know.
I know. Well, that's what I'm working towards. They love
Right.
the the playground.
Okay, as long as you can see part of the game.
We've come a long way in baseball, Coach. You got to have a playground at the ballpark now.
There you go. Ray
you know,
Tanner Field. It's got everything. Ray Tanner Field.
where are you?
I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I'm at the KFC. Figured I had to get some lunch. This morning I was at Two Goodwills. I told you I was the top. My nickname is Storm Picker. I'm one of the top sourcers in the country, or pickers. And I think I'm like number one or two in the southeast right now. So I've already been to a couple Goodwills. I thought I'd stop here and have a little bit better connection so I could talk to you guys.
Oh, man. Well, I didn't know I was interrupting the route the would you wait, hold on. Did you say Storm Picker?
Yeah, that's my new handle. I go to thrift stores and estate sales,
Yeah.
and I source for Charlie Mack, my son, who is the CMT Vintage. He has his own vintage store.
Right.
And he does that Soda City one down in Columbia, and he does the one in Charleston too. They're markets, and that's where he sells his stuff at. So I go around and get him, you know, leather jackets and fur and Carhartts and NASCAR and camo and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we were talking about some of this upstairs last week, or not last week, the week
Yeah.
before. What is
Yeah.
what I don't think I asked you though. What's the coolest thing you found?
Well, just last week, I was walking in the Roanoke Flea Market, and a guy had on a really cool red NASCAR jacket. It was 2XL, and it looked brand new. So I grabbed him and said, "Hey, let me see the back of that." And he turned around, and it had some good stuff on the back. And I said, I'll give you $30 for that right now." And it's sort of just like recruiting, and you gotta know how to talk to these people. And I told him that that's the best jacket I've seen in a long time, and he said, "Well, how about 40?" I said, "35, you got a deal." He took it off his back, and I wore it home. So good stuff. I'll show you some pictures of it. This is fire, and I've gotten some stuff for $10 at flea markets that turn around and you get 160, 180. One of them went for 210. So
Whoa.
it's a good market out there, but you got to really work and got to, last week I drove down to Greensboro to meet Charlie Mack, and I had 98 items in the last week, like T-shirts, jean jackets, leather jackets, Carhartt, you name it. The big guy is doing it. So until I get to be a baseball coach again, I'm working on being the top storm picker in the country, and I'm close right now. The way I look at it.
Well, you were the best recruiter in the country at one point in time. I
There
got
you
to,
go.
you know,
Yeah, they
it's
said I was a guru back then, but I don't. The phone hasn't been ringing off the hook for Coach Toman, so we have to switch over to the thrift world. You never know.
does Charlie Mack have a website?
Yeah, CMT, Charlie
Okay.
Mack Toman,
Yep.
CMT Vintage. And it's mainly on Instagram, but he has his own website and he sells online and he does these markets. And the dude is getting after it. And I'm just proud of him for graduating college. And I'm trying to help him a little bit with how much product he has. So he has got a ton of stuff right now. So he's doing well. It's
Dude,
fun.
that is awesome. I'm gonna go look at that here. Anybody that missed that, if you're on Instagram, CMT Vintage, or you can go. I guess you can go to the website too, cmtvintage.com.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man.
Free plug. Free
I
plug.
like it. Hey, he might sell. He sold that. I wanted to wear that NASCAR jacket. I wore it for one day. I gave it to him. He's already sold it.
Really?
I paid $35 for it. He got $180.
Whoa.
Pretty good flip. But it's worth every penny. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff.
This guy needs to get into real estate.
There you go. That's why I told him. Yeah, we need to start selling some real expensive things like houses or buildings or corporate real estate mergers. Talking big money there. So Dad can pay the bills.
big money. Well, something is happening this weekend that you know all about.
Yeah.
Here we go. Clemson, Carolina. All right. So how about this? I was saving this for you. I've been nice about it the last 2 days, but I've been saving this for you. I wanted to get your response on it. Not trying to set you up, by the way. I'm not trying to paint you in
the big guy's hard to set up because I kind of rule with the punches, so I'm good.
Well, that's a good point. All right, so Bakich Tuesday night after they beat Winthrop tells everybody that this series, and we know how important series is, Coach, but you do play games after this, right? The season's not over. This series is plastered all over the walls. It's in all the meeting rooms. They focus on it from day one moving forward. They talk about it every day. In conditioning, they have Gamecock runs. Now, he did say it's the best series in the country, and we can all agree on that. There's no question. And he certainly promoted how special it is. He remembered 2002 quite well. He didn't remember Drew's last name, but he did remember everybody else. And so that's obviously tip of the cap for that. He was on that team then with Coach Leggett. He was on that coaching staff. Mm-hmm. But boy, that's a lot of focus on the Gamecocks for 7 or 8 months before you play them for just 3 days. Paul Mainieri took the Ray Tanner approach. Well, now it's time to play Clemson. This is the best series in the country, and then we're going to go play more games after that. But we'll focus on Clemson now that we're there. What do you think about all that?
Well, there's two realms of thought. One, I like both ways because the Mainieri way is taking pressure off your team and acting like it isn't that big a deal when you know darn well the state of South Carolina, this is the biggest series of these guys' lives, and it's very important for the bragging rights. And I took it as I learned over the years, even though Jack Leggett was a friend and a good, obviously a Hall of Fame coach, but he was the enemy, and Clemson was the enemy, and we don't like the enemy. So I was a little bit like Bakich. Every day, every morning, I spent a little time looking at Clemson stats, looking at their recruits. Who can I recruit in state? I remember Mike McGee back in the day at the Roundhouse when Coach Tanner and I first started. He came in the office and said, "What are you doing, Toman?" And I said, I'm looking up Clemson. He said, "Good. Keep looking up Clemson. I want every morning, I want you to spend 15 minutes on Clemson, on their recruits, and I want you to sign all the South Carolina recruits in the state." And I said, "Mike," I said that, you can't sign all of them. He said, "Damn it, Toman, you sign all of the South Carolina kids." And I said, "Okay." So he kind of gave me the green light to start recruiting the state of South Carolina heavy, and that's what we did. And every morning I spent some time, of course, in prayer, but I was really praying that we could beat Clemson and out-recruit them. And so our focus every morning was to find out what Clemson's up to and make sure we're not screwing up this recruiting deal. And we did all right because we started getting a lot of in-state guys, and there was plenty of phone calls from Jack Leggett to Ray Tanner saying Toman's, he's being negative. He's negative recruiting. And I told Coach Tanner, "Look, I'm trying to get players. I kill them with kindness. I tell them Coach Leggett's a Hall of Famer." I said, "But they like to recruit the northern kids. They like to recruit Georgia, and we like to recruit South Carolina." That was my big recruiting push to the state of South Carolina. We basically, we wanted to shut down the state. We wanted to get all the South Carolina kids and then mix in the Florida JUCOs, California JUCOs, half high school, half JUCO, and worked out pretty well for us.
So did Coach Tanner? I mean, like knowing Coach Tanner, he's very focused on today, and then tomorrow he's focused on tomorrow. But this was your job. Like Coach Tanner, was he in there in the mornings with you doing this too, or this is just what you were doing?
My office was right next to his. They connected at the Roundhouse. Boy, that was an old building, the Roundhouse, and
A
but
lot of mold. A lot of
but
mold.
he was always in there. Coach Tanner come early and stay late, and he said, "I just want you to be in the office when I'm in there." Well, I didn't realize that was going to be, you know, 7 in the morning to 10 at night. Sometimes he said, "I don't want you to leave before me," and I'm like, "Damn." But I'd get on the road and recruit. But no, we were in there a lot together, obviously, and a long time. I spent 11 years at South Carolina with Coach Tanner and 7 more at NC State. So long, long time. So I knew him pretty well. And the good thing was Coach Tanner, I learned recruiting from Coach Tanner, and he could really find players. He knew what a baseball player looked like. So
Yeah.
I just did what he did, and then I got on the road a lot. And but I learned from Coach Tanner, and it got to the point in South Carolina where I'd sign 4 or 5 guys, and he might not know who they were until they brought him in on the visits, and he's the closer, and he could close. He was a good guy. He told it like it is. He's very honest to the recruits, and it was a blast actually. But Clemson, this is huge, and I know the South Carolina kids, the recruit. You got to see how many players South Carolina has. University of South Carolina has from South Carolina. See how many Clemson has, and usually the team that has the most South Carolina kids this series just means a little bit more to them because they're in state and they know the rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I thought it was important that we could get more kids from South Carolina on our roster. That way we have a lot better chance of beating Clemson. So
Was there ever a guy that you lost to the Tigers that, like, the one that stands out?
you know what? I got a weird personality, but when I lose a guy, I go sign 2 more and I forget about the guy that I lost because they're either with us or against us. So I never let it bother me. Now, there were some guys, of course, that Coach Leggett and Coach Corbin, I mean, they had such a good staff. They had it going. I mean, when we were lucky enough to beat them twice in Omaha, they were #1 team in the country. And
Yeah.
think about their coaching staff. Jack Leggett, Tim Corbin, another Hall of Famer. John Pulowski is the pitching coach, pitched in the big leagues, and another Division I head coach. And the volunteer was Eric Backett. So they had an unbelievable staff. So it was a reason they were #1 in the country and had a lot of good players. And we were playing them in Omaha when they were #1 in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But the South Carolina rivalry is just second to none. And as far as players, man, there's plenty of players. I mean, I get phone calls every day from coaches that said, "Yeah, you didn't recruit me, and this school did," and I don't even remember recruiting them because when I lose a guy, I'm ready to get the next one. In fact, Scott Wingo's story, another Clemson guy. Um, I was at East Coast Showcase in Wilmington, North Carolina, recruiting, and we had a 15th rounder from Pennsylvania coming into school, and he signed pro. And I was like, man, usually you lose a second or third rounder, fifth rounder, but we were at the point where we were getting 15th rounders, and he signs pro. So I'm mad. So I look at my shortstop list, and Scott Wingo's right there, and I know his dad's a baseball player at Clemson. I'm like, we ain't getting him, but I got to call him because when I lose a guy, I call like 3 more guys because I got to get a guy immediately. I can't dwell on losing a guy. Well, after this kid signed, called Wingo up the next day, visited South Carolina. I met Coach Tanner and me, and I think it's Jerry Myers at that point. And we drove all the way back from Wilmington, met Coach Tanner in Columbia, and signed Wingo in one day. And he turned out to be a pretty darn good player.
Yeah, he turned out to be. Was it harder to recruit Scott or Mr. Billy?
Mr. Billy, I'll tell you what, he's wound up and he's energetic, and he was a heck of a football and baseball player. But But we hit it off pretty good. He was mad, obviously, that Clemson hadn't paid him enough attention. And here I am calling him, and we're like, okay, we're Clemson folk, but, who wants us and who doesn't? When you show interest, that's half the battle in recruiting. You got to show them that you love them and that they're in the plans. And it didn't take long for him to commit. And I just figured all along, I didn't call him for about 2 months because I figured, okay, he's going to Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we lost that kid up there, so I'm ready to find a player quick. Call Wingo, and all of a sudden he's on campus, and we get him. So never know in recruiting. Sometimes you got to be lucky rather than good, I guess.
Going back to that time too, Coach, and you mentioned how Coach Leggett used to recruit the Northeast, and then like when Corbin went to Vanderbilt, he implemented that same strategy there, and obviously it worked. I mean, they used to have they got all kinds of players. We know that,
yeah.
But one thing that I felt like that happened to those guys more than happened to others, and you as the elite recruiter you are, I want to get you to walk through the fine line of how you do this here, because the Tigers would sign a bunch of kids who they were never going to get on campus. They were going to go in the draft. It happened every year. I mean, had all those guys come to school, Clemson might have a national championship, but
absolutely
they don't. And you had to be careful. I mean, obviously y'all went through your battles getting Drew, Smoke and Reese were going to be, potential first rounders, and you had to kind of work through all that, and et cetera, et cetera. But how much time do you commit to a kid that you know damn well he's committed, but he's probably going to sign because he's going to be a first, second, third rounder, comp guy, whatever it is, versus maybe signing somebody who you know is not going to go in the draft? You got a much better chance to get on campus.
We would sign 2 or 3 marquee players who we knew we had a chance to lose them, but we'd sign about 18 more that in case we lost them guys in the draft, there wouldn't be much of a difference. We'd bring in so many bodies and so many good players that if we did lose a guy in the draft, for instance, the guy that comes to mind is I lost Jose Bautista. He was at Chipola Junior College, and I signed him for South Carolina. Little tidbit to know, Jose was coming with us, and then the Pirates drafted him in like the second or third round, and we lost him. But that bat flip with Jose Bautista was Sam Dyson, another Gamecock, was pitching, and Jose Bautista was supposed to be – he signed with the Gamecocks. So I'm watching that matchup, and, man, I'm like, damn, Dyson is nasty. He's got movement, and Jose's a stud, and that bat flip basically was 2 South Carolina guys going at it. And not a lot of people knew that Jose was signed with us, but he signed a national letter of intent with us. He was a shortstop, third base, pitcher, too. Got through 92, 93 on the mound. So I thought we were going to get another JUCO bandit from Florida like Steve Pierce or Justin Harris or someone like that. And we just couldn't quite get him through the draft. I was a little surprised. It wouldn't happen now because the JUCO guys don't go as high anymore. Right. They want to see him against Division I competition before they put a lot of money into them JUCO guys. So back then they grabbed them, and the rest is history. So we lost Jose, but yeah, you can't. We didn't like to sign them marquee guys unless we were pretty sure they were coming.
What year would that have been?
Jose Bautista, I'd have to look it up. Chipola Junior College, I have to figure it out. But that was back in the Steve Pierce or maybe Steve Pierce days, or I'm not real sure. I mean, I was there. I was in South Carolina for 11 years. So one of them years we had Jose signed, and along with, some other JUCO bandits, and we did the California deal. I got a Clemson story for you, Jamie.
Yeah,
I just thought of this. Do you have time for that?
Yeah, we got plenty of time. You're good.
Okay. All right. We're playing Clemson early on in the Coach Tanner era, and I think we lost the game. It wasn't a whole lot of fun, and I think we were at Clemson, and one of the fans said something about my mother on
your mom
into the dugout about my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, and You
Was
know,
she at the game?
I'm half Italian. My mom's maiden name's Calabro, and you just don't say that to an Italian woman. So I went in the stands after the game, and I wasn't going to hurt the guy, although I wanted to. But I scared him about to death, poor guy. I probably owe him an apology. And I think I did apologize 3 or 4 years later because I saw the same guy. But I we got back to Sarge Fry Field and we were miserable and I was pissed off and I basically had to apologize to Coach Tanner. I'm about crying in the locker room. And no, there's no crying in baseball, but I said, I know I got to be better than that. I can't do it. But man, when he said something about my mom, I had to do it. So Coach Tanner gets me on a plane because we got to play Clemson the next day, and he don't want me there. And so we made an excuse to get on a plane and go to California. Well, I ended up signing either Janowitz or maybe it was Chris Hernandez or Jerome Peter, one of them California JUCO guys. I call back to the press box and Tom Price answers. I said, "What's the score? What's the score, man? We need to win." He said, "Where are you?" I said, "I went on the road recruiting. I had to go recruiting." Meanwhile, I think me and Coach Tanner suspended myself to go on the road. So I wasn't at the game. And that was the game, Jamie, that we won like 36 to 18, 38 to something. And I missed it. Can you believe that?
I can't believe you just told that story. I mentioned earlier in the program today, I was going to talk to you about something that nobody ever talks about, and it was that game, 38 to 16.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Cool.
I had that in my, because in 1997, a lot of people don't realize this. I know you're jogging some memories now, right? People are going, "Oh my God, I forgot about that." They hung 38 on the Tigers, gave up 16, but hung 38 on them.
Yeah.
That is not the only game that year where somebody scored 30 runs in a game. You remember the other one?
I don't know. Did we lose?
You got your ass beat.
Where was it?
At Arkansas.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a mechanism I have as a person, but I forget all the bad things, and all I do is think about the good things. I'm very positive, and I have a way of shutting bad stuff down, and I just forget it. All I remember is I was in California signing a recruit, and we beat Clemson 38 to 16. I don't think about the bad stuff, and there's plenty of bad stuff too. When you're playing baseball, you're going to lose some ball games, but wow, that's crazy.
30 to 7. Actually, that game was at the Sarge. Y'all did also, you scored 30. This was a wild year. Y'all beat Western Carolina 30 to 12 that year too. There were 3 games in 97 where somebody scored 30 runs in a baseball game. That is all right. So when y'all won 38 to 16, just knowing Coach Tanner, I'm imagining he probably is saying, "You don't need to get back anytime soon."
I don't remember what he said, but I said, "Man, I'm so happy right now." And, I told him, why we won, because they were fighting for Storm Toman. And he said, "Yeah, well, we won all right, 38-16. He said, "Maybe, yeah, you better stay on the road a little bit more." And I knew when to get on the road usually. When we were going bad or had a loss like that or what happened at Clemson, I usually got on the road and just said, "Hey, I'm going to find recruits." So that particular one worked out. We won big and found a recruit in California at the same time. But
Ryan Bordenick had 6 hits in that game and 9 RBI.
Boy, the dude could hit. I think he led the FCC that year in hitting. He's hitting like 450 almost the whole year. Just a crazy good hitter. And I got got a story about Ryan Bordenick too. He was hitting 450 leading the SEC, and he had a bad game where he probably only got 2 hits and he struck out 2 or 3 times, and a couple of them were looking. So he didn't get his normal 3 or 4 hits, and his dad after the game. This is how intense his dad was as a baseball guy. He had a sign on his shirt after the game, "Swing the bat." So Ryan goes up to him after the game, and his dad's got that shirt. It's got that written on his shirt, "Swing the bat." Ryan was not happy after that. That hit hard. That was a little bit too much sometimes them parents can get a little bit. They love their kids, but they get a little bit too involved, and that was one of them right there.
He was as good of a hit, and he was great behind the plate. I mean, that
Yeah.
you think, I mean, you're being the catching guy that you are. Of course, we saw the worst catcher in the country opening weekend in Columbia.
Boy, that guy was struggling. I feel bad. I guess he was their backup, I guess, but he just wasn't ready to do that. That was not pretty.
He was really. I mean, I could still go out there and catch. I mean, he
Yeah.
couldn't even catch the baseball. But you had Bordenick, and then Brandon Pack took over, and he's an all SEC guy. And then you had Whitaker, and then you had Landon, and then I think 05, I think Hook was here that year, right? Wasn't Vanderhook and who else?
Vanderhook got a year or two, and then Enders played some.
Trent Klein,
another draftable guy.
Mm-hmm.
It had some pretty good guys behind the dish, but here in the SEC, so you got to get, the rule of thumb for me was you get a draftable player at every position on the field. And then if you have 8 to 10 pitchers that are really good or draftable, then you get to Omaha. Okay. And if you don't have that, you better be a really, really good coach like Coach Tanner or Coach Mainieri or Coach Leggett or Coach Bertman. That's some of the top. Coach Corbin, that's some of the top in the country right there. And if you don't have quite the players, you can get some wins, from the X's and O's and from the coaches. But, you got to have the players. You look back at we went to Omaha 3 times when I was there and 3 times after I left, 6 times in 12 years. And if you go back and look at the players, there's a lot of draftable players and a lot of good pitchers that help you get there. But, it doesn't hurt to have a draftable guy at every single position. And that's exactly what Coach Mainieri's needing to do right now. And they got a good recruiter, a pitching coach, Terry Rooney. Monty Lee's still there. Coach Bertman always said when you get a new coach like Coach Mainieri that you could add 7 wins. I think I told you this before. You could add 7 wins. This is Skip Bertman's formula. He said when you get a new coach that first year, because of the new energy and the new coach and the excitement within the program and the fan base, you could add 7 wins to what you did the previous year. That's what the new coach is worth. Well, if he does that, got 40 wins, and we're in a regional, and then that's how you get to Omaha. You got to get to a regional first. But we're looking at 9-0 already. So basically, he only has to win 31. 31 and what? 31 and 16 to get to 40 wins.
Yeah.
So I think we can do that. So we're well on pace, and they've done great. Now it's time to step up and understand this rivalry, and the fans are not going to be happy if we don't win the series. Okay, we haven't had that much success lately against Clemson. It's time to turn the table and get after it. So I think we're going to win 2 out of 3. I got the Gamecocks winning 2 out of 3 this weekend, but it's not going to be easy. That's for sure.
Well, one of the things that Coach Mainieri has been doing through 9 games that I think is the last couple of years. It's certainly not how Holbrook did. I mean, Coach Holbrook, Coach Tanner, you were a head coach, Coach Myers. I'm trying to think of all the guys that I know. They figure out who guys are, they find roles for them, and then they make them own that role, right? This is your job. This is going to be your job here. You need to do your job. And I felt like the last few years, I'm not trying to dog on Coach King or make it personal. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But there were a lot of guys who I don't really think understood their role. I mean, I've had guys tell me that. You were still in the program. And through 9 games, he has made it a point. This is your job. Here's what you're going to do for this team. And when you're in there, this is how you need to do it. I think guys are comfortable in their own skin for the first time in a couple of years. Yeah.
Well, Coach Kingston's an awfully good coach, but Coach Mainieri is a Hall of Famer. Okay, there's a reason that Paul Mainieri has won more games. He's the active Division I wins leader right now in the country. So he's won more games than anyone that's coaching. There's 300 teams out there or more. and we have the coach at South Carolina that has the most wins. And you can't do much better than they've done already. They're 9-0. Now, some of them games were a little close, and you'd think that we'd win 15-2 every game. So that's a little concerning that we didn't really blow out, all 9 games. But we found a way to win, and last time I checked, that's the idea, to win baseball games.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson, on the other hand, I think they're like, what is their record? 7-1, and they did, 7-1, 8-1, something like that.
7-1. Yep.
Yeah, and they lost to Ole Miss, but that happens. The wind was blowing out that day, but they've played. They played a little bit tougher schedule than South Carolina has, so that's advantage Clemson. But South Carolina's advantage is they have a Hall of Fame coach, and they're 9-0, and the guys are feeling good about it. And the pitching and defense has been great. The fielding percentage is great. The ERA is great. The hitting is coming on. It hasn't, we're not crushing the ball, but we are hitting some balls hard. The one thing that does concern me is the strength of schedule right now. We're 9-0, but Clemson ain't gonna make 4 errors probably. Knock on wood for them. And they're not going to have 2 pass balls or really 5, and they call 3 of them wild pitches. And they're not going to make these errors, and they're not going to. The other day, there was a ball hit in the outfield and almost hit a guy in the head, I saw. And that isn't going to happen against Clemson. Now, there's going to be errors, yeah, but you're not going to get all the walks that we're getting, and you're not going to get all the hit by pitches. That's what happens when you play low, mid-major teams. They hit you a lot, and they walk you a lot, and then you get your hits. Then they make errors, and then you have pass balls and wild pitch. Before you know it, you're 9-0. Okay? Where it changes is we may not be getting 8 walks on Friday. Okay? Is that tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. So we may not be getting 4 hit by pitches. They're not going to throw 4 wild pitches where you get extra bases. So it becomes harder to score runs, obviously, with better defense against you, and the other pitchers aren't walking you and hitting you. So we got to figure out how to score some runs. But I know one thing, that Clemson series, you could throw all the records, everything out the door, because these guys are going to be fighting, scratching, and clawing. And the South Carolina kids that know the rivalry, it'll mean a little bit more to them. But them young kids that are in the program or transfers in, they'll learn real quick how important South Carolina-Clemson rivalry is to the Gamecocks and to the Tigers. So they need to understand that, and I'm sure Coach Mainieri and Monty and Coach Rooney are relaying that to the players because, this is like, played 9 games, and now this is the real season, and this is for all the marbles in state, and this is for a whole year of bragging rights. So there is a lot on the line, and I'm not afraid, to put that on the players, make them play harder, toughen them up, tell them, this is the enemy. And then after the game, shake their hands, and, the players, half of them know each other, and the coaches will be fine, but I love Coach Leggett. He's a great coach. I love Tim Corbin. He was at Clemson, though. He recruited against me. Kevin O'Sullivan was there, too. Maybe that's who the pitching coach was in Omaha that year. I can't remember. I know one thing. If they had Leggett, O'Sullivan, Corbin, Backett, Pulowski, they had good coaches and good players. So it's a great program. But when it comes to this, I got a lot of emotions when it comes to here. I mean, probably the 2 biggest games of my life was when we beat them in Omaha. And, we lost the national championship the next day. But we beat Clemson twice in Omaha. They can't take that away from us when they were number 1 in the country. That fires me up. And I can still see Steve Thomas bat flipping out there. That was incredible. But anyway.
Well, that ball that
It's going to be
Steve
a heck of a weekend.
That ball that Thomas hit deserved a backflip. It still hadn't landed.
Well, yeah, and he didn't hit that many home runs, so when he hit it, he got to pimp it anyway, right?
Drew and I have talked probably a million times about what happened in 2002,
Yeah.
and Drew he says it all the time. He's like, when we got to the ballpark for the first game, clearly we were very confident. And Clemson was confident, and then things started to change. We beat the crap out of them. He said, when we got to the ballpark on day 2, we looked in the dugout and knew we were going to beat them. It was like it was. I don't know if you remember how much you remember of that, but he said, "I'm going to tell you right now. My teammates and I. It didn't matter who it was, Landon or Garris. It didn't matter. We knew just by watching those guys get loose and the way that they were carrying themselves, the game was over, and it surely was by the scoreboard too."
Yeah, that was the good old days, man. Love that. That was awesome.
I still haven't gotten a response out of this. I've asked Coach Tanner. I may have asked you. I asked Coach Lake. He couldn't remember. I even asked Bondo, and Bondo didn't know. If the championship series in 2002 was a 3-game series, and it wasn't. It was a 1 game, and Rawl pitched. But if it was a 3-game series, who would have started game 2?
Well, you got to go back and look at who pitched previously at the World Series. But basically, at that point, if you're playing 2 out of 3, you're pitching Johnny. You know who Johnny is?
Yeah, Holstaff.
Johnny Holstaff. Hey, next in line, whoever's up, has got to take the ball and get it done. That's probably where we were at that point, because it seemed like we were out there forever. And
2 weeks.
And of course, the next year they go to best out of 3. Not that we would have beat Clemson or Texas 2 games in a row. You never know, but that's just how it was with 1 game. But I'm glad they changed it to 3 games. That's a little bit more fair. You win 2 out of 3, you've really earned a national title. So
yeah. Well, Coach
Tanner, I
don't
remember who could have pitched then too either. I don't know who was available. Yeah,
well, Bondo threw the second Clemson game.
Yeah, well, we'd have put him back out there. He threw about 84 anyway.
So. It would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. Back then, he just threw him out there,
Well, you did, because in 2000, Barber would shut it down on Friday and turn around and start on Sunday.
Yeah, you know what? And Kip Botnut won a national award for best pitcher, and meanwhile, Scott Barber was like 10-1 with 15 saves. And I know Kip was 17-0 or 17-1, but they could have easily been co-pitchers of the year. Then we had the third guy was Bauer. He's 6'7", 250. So that was that was probably 2000 might have been our best team when I was there. But I think we ended up 56-10. That wasn't a bad year, and they had really good makeup that year. Yeah, they were fun to be around. And, when a team's having fun, and they're good, and they're tough, that's a good recipe for winning. That's for sure.
Well, you got that right. I know that you got to get your order in here, so I'm gonna let you go in just a second. But one of the things pertaining to the series this weekend, but really to baseball in general, Coach Tanner used to say it a lot. I know he'd say it privately, but he certainly said it publicly. We need our best players to play their best in series like this. And you go back and you remember a lot of the things that happened in this series while you were in Columbia, and then obviously after that, when Coach Monty and Coach Holbrook and all these guys. Oftentimes when Carolina wins this series, actually every time when Carolina wins this series, their best players have moments.
Yeah.
I think about Smoke hitting the ball off of Matt Vaughn, and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But so tomorrow,
going back to the best players, Petrie and Nathan Hall have to hit, and Nathan Hall has a little extra incentive to have a great series. Now, the problem is Clemson may know how to pitch him a little bit better than the normal team because he spent 2 years there. So if I was Hall, I'd be sitting on breaking balls all day long because that's what he's probably going to get a steady diet of that. And then, but if you look at Clemson's lineup, Jared, Cantarella's only hitting 270, but he's their guy, and he needs to step up in these 3 games, and I think he probably will. But they've got them guys like Pano and McClatty and the Listy kid. They have 4 or 5 guys in that lineup that can really hit. So they're the guys to watch out for with Clemson. That Listy kid hitting over 400, and Pano's hitting, and McClatty, and then you got their best player, Camarella, or Canarella. So it'll be interesting. But Becker's going right tomorrow.
Yep.
And he's pitched at Clemson quite a bit, and he's older. Now, the Canuck kid is pretty good. He's probably pitching for Clemson, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Well, this is what it's all about. I mean, these 2 guys, Canuck is outstanding talent. Becker is a senior, and he's thrown against him 3 times, twice in that ballpark. I mean, it to me, I think it's pretty simple. I think if Carolina wins the game tomorrow night, you can probably circle Matthew Becker. Now, we could be dead wrong, but I think it's going to be Matthew Becker that's going to have to set the tone. Clearly, he's a starting pitcher, but I just don't see a bunch of runs, like he has to throw well. I think he will.
Yeah, you know what? There's probably going to be 2 pretty close games, and then there's going to be one that gets away from someone. Because in this 3-game set, and you're trying to win 2 out of 3, if you get behind early, you might bring in some guys that aren't quite your top guys, because you got to try to win in Greenville, and then you got to try to win in Columbia. So one of these teams is going to get boat raced in the game, and they're going to have to fight back and scratch and claw. But other than that, I think there'll be at least 2 pretty, maybe 2-run games or something, fairly close. I mean, that's been, South Carolina's 9-0, and 5 or 6 of their games were fairly close through 6 or 7 innings. So I look for some close games, good competition, and man, if I could drive down there about 4.5 hours, I might sneak down there Sunday as well. That'll be fun, but hadn't figured that out yet. I gotta go find clothes for CMT Vintage.
All right, we're gonna let you go, but we know you're at KFC. But if you were in Columbia and you had to pick fried chicken, where are you going?
Oh, Bernie's roasted chicken, no doubt.
I'm with
you.
Come
on. I used to live there. I used to live at that place about every damn day. But I'm at KFC. The manager is really nice to us over here. Knows I'm a coach. Gives us, the two chicken special is usually about 4 pieces with this guy. He's awesome. But I come here a lot, so it's all good.
The next time I see you in Columbia, I like the wings at Bernie's. I'll eat a whole box of wings by myself. I think they're the best wings.
Absolutely.
Well, those are D's wings. They're 2 different wings though. D's wings are like traditional chicken wings. These are just fried chicken wings.
Yeah.
But next time I see you, we'll go to Bernie's.
Either Bernie's or Mellow Mushroom or a good pie.
Oh yeah. The pie guy.
On Jamie. Yeah, I definitely. I'm half Italian, so I got to have the pie. I didn't get close to $3 bills by not eating a lot of pizza pie. Okay,
that's right. Okay, you got a deal. Mellow Mushroom and Bernie's. Maybe.
All right, looking forward to a great series, man. I'm excited for this. This is going to be fun.
Can't wait, Coach. Great to see you, man. Enjoy lunch.
Good luck with them birthdays.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, okay. Bye-bye.
There you go, Coach Toman, who will proudly tell you he'll always be a Gamecock.